Hello everyone. Today, we are going to learn about a very important chapter in India's freedom struggle, the Salt March. Now, this wasn't just another protest. It was a simple, peaceful act led by Mahatma Gandhi that actually managed to shake the mighty British Empire right to its foundations.
It's a very good question, isn't it? How could something so common, something we use every single day, like salt, become such a powerful weapon, especially against the world's largest empire? Well, let's explore this together and find out.
So, to understand this entire movement, we first have to ask, why salt? Why did Gandhiji choose salt? You see, this was not a random choice at all. It was a brilliant strategy.
Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. In India, back then and even now, salt is essential for everybody. Every single day, it did not matter if you were the richest person in the city or the poorest farmer in a village, everyone needed salt. So by putting a heavy tax on it, the British government was affecting every single family. This made the salt tax a very powerful and a very personal symbol of their unfair rule.
Mahatma Gandhi understood this perfectly. He said that this tax and the fact that only the government could produce and sell salt showed the true oppressive nature of British rule. He knew that if he challenged this one law, he could wake up people from all parts of society, across different regions, different castes, and different classes.
But before taking direct action, Gandhiji gave the British one last chance. On the 31st of January 1930, he sent the letter to the Viceroy, Lord Irwin. In this letter, he listed 11 demands. These demands were for everyone, for the peasants, for the workers, and for the businessmen. And one of the most important demands was to remove the salt tax. The letter was an ultimatum. If these demands were not accepted by the 11th of March, a nationwide campaign of civil disobedience would begin.
Well, Viceroy Irwin refused to even consider the demands. So, just as he had promised, Mahatma Gandhi began his historic march.
So, on the 12th of March, 1930, the march started from Gandhi's Sabarmati ashram. Their destination was a coastal town called Dandi, which was 240 miles away. Imagine that! For 24 long days, the volunteers walked around 10 miles every single day. And finally, they reached Dandi on the 6th of April.
And, as they were marching, something truly incredible started to happen. Thousands of people from the villages would come out just to hear Gandhiji speak. He would stop and explain to them what Swaraj, or self-rule, meant, and he urged them to peacefully stand against the British. The villagers would line the roads, sing bhajans, and offer food and water. The entire world was watching. Newspapers and radio stations were reporting on every single step of this amazing journey.
And what is really quite remarkable is that this huge movement, which would soon capture the imagination of the entire country, began with just this number: 78 of Gandhiji's most trusted volunteers setting out from his ashram. That's all.
So, when the marchers finally reached the sea at Dandi, the time had come for that one symbolic act of defiance they had all been waiting for.
On the morning of April 6th, Gandhiji walked down to the seashore. He picked up a lump of salty mud, and he boiled it in seawater to produce salt. It was such a simple, quiet act, wasn't it? But with that one act, he had peacefully and ceremonially broken the British salt law. And this single act was the starting point of a huge, nationwide movement. Now, this brings us to a very important concept. What exactly do we mean by civil disobedience? Let us try to understand it clearly. It is a form of peaceful protest. First, it means refusing to cooperate with the government. And second, it means you actively, but always peacefully, break laws that you believe are unjust or unfair.
Gandhiji's simple act of making salt was like a signal to the whole country. Inspired by his example, millions of Indians started to break the colonial laws. All across the country, people began making their own salt illegally. Peasants bravely refused to pay their revenue and other taxes. And in many places, people would enter the reserve forest to collect wood and graze their cattle, peacefully breaking the unfair forest laws.
So you see, the Salt March did much more than just break a law. It truly awakened an entire nation.
And look at who is involved. People from every part of society joined this movement. We had peasants and traders, workers and young students. And a very important part of this movement was the large-scale participation of women. For the very first time, thousands of women came out from their homes to listen to Gandhi, to join protest marches, and even to make salt themselves.
Now, this slide, it shows us two very different pictures.
A stark contrast. On one side, we see the peaceful protesters, the satyagrahis, but on the other side, you can see the harsh response of the colonial government. The British were worried by how fast the movement was growing, and so they reacted with force.
And that force was used all over the country. Peaceful protesters were attacked. Even women and children were beaten. And this number, it shows you the scale of the repression. About 100,000 people were arrested and put into jail.
But this brutal repression, it did not stop the movement. In fact, it had the opposite effect. It made people even more determined, and it forced the British government to come and negotiate. This was the turning point.
This is the crucial point to remember. Before the march, Viceroy Irwin had completely refused to talk. But the massive scale and the peaceful spirit of the civil disobedience movement, it forced the government's hand. On the 5th of March, 1931, the government had no other choice but to sign a pact with Mahatma Gandhi.
This agreement came to be known as the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Now, under this pact, two main things happened. First, the government agreed to release all the political prisoners, and in return, Gandhiji agreed to call off the movement and to go to London to participate in a roundtable conference to discuss India's future.
Now, it's important to know, the conference in London, it did not result in immediate freedom for India. In fact, Gandhiji returned feeling quite disappointed. But the real victory of the Salt March was not about some immediate political result. Its impact was much, much deeper.
And this is the true legacy of the Salt March. It was a moral awakening for the entire country. It brought people together from all walks of life, rich and poor, men and women, from cities and from villages, all united in one common struggle. It showed the world the unity and the strong determination of the Indian people in their fight for freedom.
So, as we end our discussion today, I will leave you with a thought. The Salt March took an everyday thing, like salt, and turned it into a powerful symbol against injustice. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What everyday injustice today could unite millions of people for change? Think about it.